This review was made possible by contributions from viewers like you.
Spooky, scary Bob Shoween, we're creepy, eerie pros. It's time for some of the worst movies and TV shows. Spooky, scary Bob Shoween, dribble, junk, and tripe. Maybe even a treat or two if you believe the hype. We're so sorry, cinema, but have you any pride? If you wanted to be good, then you should have tried. Spooky, scary Bob Shoween for entertaining you. We will make you laugh and scream, so just relax and boom! Hello, honored guests, and welcome back to Bob Shoween. The clock is counting down until we get a new Addams Family TV show, brought to us by none other than Tim Burton himself. I'm feeling a bit more optimistic about it, but some of us aren't feeling the anticipation.
I demand justice! They cast Luis Guzman as Gomez!
I know.
It was going so well! They got Tim Burton to direct, the writers of Smallville to write, and for Morticia!
Raven, no.
Catherine Zeta-Jones!
Sweetheart, I understand that he wasn't your first choice, but until we actually see it for ourselves, we have no way of knowing how good or bad it's gonna be.
Has the planet gone mad? Gomez has been horribly miscast! I seek justice. Denied. I shall not submit. I shall conquer. I shall rise. My name is Raven Fox, and I have seen stupid. I have seen cringe. I have seen the unholy maggots that feast at the dark recesses of the human soul.
They're in Jasper.
I have seen all of this, but until this announcement, I had never seen Guzman.
Want to watch something else to take your mind off of it?
Yes, I do.
Let's take a look at another new Addams Family from 1998. You may remember the terrible direct-to-video movie Addams Family Reunion, and you may remember that the idea behind it was to pave the way for this new series on the Fox Family Channel.
Oh, I've got a good feeling about this one.
Before we can talk about the series itself, let's watch the opening titles.
Welcome to the Addams Family. How you do, the Addams Family? Coming to the Addams Family now.
Cha-cha-cha. Wonderfully scary.
And pleasantly hairy.
Delightfully very.
It's the Addams Family.
Welcome to the Addams Family. Going to the Addams Family. Coming to the Addams Family now.
Snap, snap.
Why are they wearing sunglasses?
Because it's the 90s and that's what you gotta do to appeal to those damn kids today. Yeah, this theme song is not very good. You don't have to be a slave to the iconic theme by Vic Mizzy, said the fan of Mark Shaman's work on the Barry Sonnenfeld films. But what made them think that giving them a mambo was the way to go?
Indulge me. What would this intro look like set to the original theme song?
Good question. Let's find out.
They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. They're all together ooky, the Addams Family. Their house is a museum. When people come to see 'em, they really are a scream, the Addams Family.
Neat. Sweet. Petite.
So get a witch's shawl on, a broomstick you can crawl on. We're gonna pay a call on the Addams Family.
What do you think?
That works.
Appropriately enough, the series begins on Halloween night, and the Addamses couldn't be happier. Ellie Harvey as Morticia isn't as glamorous as the bar-raising Angelica Houston, but the chemistry between her and Glenn Taranto's Gomez can't be ignored, and I love her crazy eyes. She looks weird enough to be a real Addams, as opposed to simply marrying into the name. And of course, we would love to have Raul Julia back to play Gomez, but since that's impossible and finding a suitable stand-in would be a fool's errand, it makes sense to harken back to the original Gomez by channeling John Astin, which Taranto does beautifully.
You have the right to remain silent.
You know what the Miranda rights do to me?
Anything you say can and will be used against you.
In a court of love? God mia.
Mon cher.
Happy Halloween!
Meanwhile, Lurch and Grandmama are busy preparing Halloween dinner.
This is going to be the best Halloween dinner yet. I wonder if we should kill it before we stuff it this year. What would be the fun in that?
Okay, I like Grandmama. Good casting on Grandmama.
And it makes more sense that she would be killing dinner instead of her guests.
It's Granny!
Ugh. Nicole Figuer returns as Wednesday, who actually likes playing with dolls like Wednesday should. And what do she and Pugsley dress as to go trick-or-treating?
I can barely stand to look at you.
It's the most horrifying thing I've ever seen.
Two of history's most frightening and intimidating creatures. Mr. Scott and Ebert.
There's nothing more unsettling than a critic.
This is working.
Oh my god. It's working! I feel cheap and disloyal.
While the kids are out terrorizing their neighbors with their biting criticism, the rest of the episode takes a cue from the original series as a couple of bank robbers try to hide from the authorities in the Addams house. The Addamses mistake them for trick-or-treaters, and hilarity ensues. The trend of following the lead of the original show continues in a later episode as Gomez and Tish debate over whether or not they should send their kids to school.
You can't send the children to school. I'd be lost without them.
I'm with Gomez. I felt terrible when I sent my kids to school.
The kids come home for their first day, and it's interesting seeing the older, jaded Wednesday react similarly to her much younger counterpart when their teacher reads a fairy tale to the class, and she's mortified by how a dragon was killed in the story. I mean, she has no problem inflicting pain on anyone else, but a mythological creature is where she draws the line? Wednesday is crazier than you. Gomez and Tish invite the principal and head of the school board over to discuss the violent content being taught in the classroom.
We don't believe violence belongs in the classroom.
Violence?
Not that there isn't a time and place for it.
But when innocent victims, sweet childhood heroes are hurt, that's when we draw the line.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Addams, I assure you we would never promote such a thing.
Oh no? What about Hansel and Gretel?
Pushing sweet old ladies into hot ovens.
What do you think that feels like?
And it ends on a kind of confusing note. It sounds like they're legitimately concerned about teaching violence to children, but what do they call arming their children with active grenades?
I'd say we're off to a good start.
Seems to me like the story should have ended with the Addamses being fine with the school teaching its violent curriculum, but not every episode can have a perfect landing. One episode with a much better ending tells the story of Thing apparently going missing after he and the family have an argument. They can't find him anywhere, but they do find a ransom note in his apartment. Oh yeah, they gave Thing one of their closets to live in, which has been made over into a little multi-level apartment building. That's awesome. It's also worth pointing out that Thing's parents are also nothing but a couple of hands. Confirmation that Thing wasn't a severed hand reanimated by mad science, but he and his parents were, in fact, baby hands. What's interesting is that when Fester was being held captive by his new bride in Addams Family Values, little baby Pubert reacted to his absence in the most horrifically adorable way imaginable. They do the same thing in this episode with Fester, except the absence of Thing stresses him out to the point where he grows a luscious mane of hair.
Mon Dieu, he looks like a dead meatloaf.
Eventually, it's revealed that Thing just ran away, and he faked his own kidnapping because he thought the family didn't love him anymore.
Thing, just because we might be angry with you doesn't mean we love you any less.
A very simple lesson that could be easily expressed by any family, because at its core, that's what the Addamses are. A family. We get a retelling of the episode Morticia's Romance, where Gomez and Morticia are celebrating their 13th anniversary.
Oh, it's lovely.
Actually, it's more of a gift for Gomez.
Please don't try to put that on Gomez.
I don't think it's my size.
The kids ask how Mom and Dad met, but they have some reservations about it.
Some things can scar a person for life.
But we've already been exposed to must-see TV, Barney and the Spice Girls.
Barney and the Spice Girls? Did they do something together?
No, but if they did, that would be amazing.
If you want to be my lover, you gotta get with my friends. Yay!
So they tell their story, in which apparently Granny Frump, cosplaying as Phyllis Diller from Mad Monster Party, was going to match Gomez with her daughter Ophelia, but he of course falls head over heels in love with her sister, Morticia, who dressed like Wednesday when she was young? That settles it. Someday, somehow, Christina Ricci has to return to play Morticia herself. So now the question remains, how do they get out of this wedding?
I know. Let's knock off Ophelia.
Excellent idea. I'll get the rack.
Gomez, Faster. I don't want any harm to come to Ophelia.
And besides, the rack isn't a murder weapon, it's a sex toy.
Isn't there a more family-friendly way you could put that?
I guess we could call it a ladies' de-stressing tool?
Never mind, call it a sex toy.
Fester gets the idea to pass Ophelia off to his cousin, simply known as It. No, not that one.
Cousin Itt, thanks for coming. Morticia, this is Cousin Itt. Cousin Itt, this is Morticia.
Mr. Itt, please. We just met.
That does it.
Oh, Gomez, stop.
That'll teach you to make a play for my Morticia, you long-hair Lothario.
What? All I said was that I wanted to top that. It's a compliment.
As if Cousin It being a playboy wasn't problematic enough, Granny Frump's having trouble booking a priest for the wedding.
One of his exorcisms went into overtime, so he has to put the wedding off another day.
Exorcisms. Such a barbaric practice. Do demons not have the right to live wherever they want?
Of course, it isn't long until Ophelia and It fall for each other, and she has to break the bad news to Gomez.
Would it be okay if I totally humiliated you by backing out of the marriage and dating your cousin?
Oh, please. Humiliate me?
Ophelia, you are terrible to even consider it. Only an amateur does it for free.
Unfortunately, no one told It that Ophelia is a raging bridezilla, and after a little mishap with a pit of quicksand and a hairdryer...
Oh my god, oh, what? It's what?
What?
Exactly.
Exactly what?
Yes.
Huh?
No, not how, what?
What are you asking me for?
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you.
Telling me what?
That's what I said.
What did you say?
What I did say.
Moving on.
No, not moving on. They turned It into what from Addams Family Values, and I want to be so adorable!
Oh, trust me. Size doesn't matter.
Oh, please. Humiliate me?
Anyway, he bails at the first hint of marriage, so her wedding with Gomez is back on. Things are complicated further by Granny Frump trying to wed Morticia onto Gomez's other cousin, Vlad. They have a duel over her. And this is actually kind of suspenseful, since it's implied that Gomez isn't as skilled with a pistol as he is with a blade. But it doesn't really matter, since Vlad dies before they can settle things.
Morticia, Cousin Vlad choked on a toothpick.
Oh, how sad.
Since they're in a hurry to get this wedding over and done with, they have it right after Cousin Vlad's funeral. It, meanwhile, realizes what a terrible mistake he's made, and he makes a beeline for the wedding from his home on the wrong side of the tracks. Cousin It is trouble, and that's why the ladies love him. Ophelia ditches Gomez for It at the altar, but since they've already got a wedding going, they might as well take advantage of the situation.
Morticia, that dress, it brings out the pallor of your skin, the blackness of your hair, the angles of your bones. It drives me wild.
I'll never wear another.
So, Morticia has been wearing her funeral and wedding dress ever since she and Gomez tied the knot. That is equal parts romantic and creepy. By the way, when I finally get up to Oregon, we need to get his and hers mugshots like this.
Why wait?
And wouldn't you know it, the original Gomez himself, John Aston, makes a couple of appearances as this Gomez's grandpapa. He's here to spoil the kids rotten, which comes into conflict with Gomez and Morticia trying their best to raise their kids with a sense of personal responsibility.
Pugsley, go to your room. Your poor octopus is just skin and beak.
Yes, Mother.
I love that. It'd be too easy to fall on the expression skin and bone, but they went that extra mile to be anatomically accurate. That's cool.
Gomez and Tish decide to take a little weekend getaway, leaving Grandpapa, Grandmama, and Fester to watch the kids, and to compete with each other over who's the most fun relative.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Is that soot on Morticia's face? She was right next to Gomez in this earlier scene where he was holding one of Fester's time bombs, and she was completely unmussed by virtue of being pure style. But here, she is mussed. That is wrong. She should have repelled it like the pallid goddess that she is. I am offended.
You know what they say, it's all fun and games until someone loses a sibling, which is exactly what happens as Wednesday tricks Pugsley into being taken away with their dirty laundry. The adults left in charge all learn a lesson about personal responsibility themselves as they own up to Gomez and Morticia when they get home. Pugsley makes it home with a clean laundry and a face full of bleach, and all is right with the world. Unfortunately, not every show can have a flawless record, and one such episode with troubled writing, let's call it, is Lurch's Grand Romance. It's very loosely based on an episode from the original series, which focused on Lurch trying to woo a visiting friend of Morticia named Trivia. In this episode, the object of Lurch's affection is a maid who works for the new neighbors who just moved in, and she looks like the Bride of Frankenstein.
Hi. Sorry to bother you. My name's Elsa.
She's also named after Elsa Manchester. That is perfect.
Lurch's reaction to her, however, is not. Maybe his eyes widened a bit, the heartbeat was a nice touch, but otherwise, he shouldn't be able to express his emotions at all. Granted, Ted Cassidy's Lurch was very expressive.
Come with me, honey.
But I don't think we need a repeat of Rapey Lurch. Thank you very much.
Sadly, Elsa isn't feeling the love, but Lurch is still completely smitten.
Lurch. Oh, those hearts I see.
They should have been anatomically correct hearts.
Like in the original episode, the family soon learns of Lurch's heartache, and they decide to help him win Elsa's heart.
What you need is a few pointers from someone who really understands women.
In the meantime, maybe Fester can help.
And that's wrong, too. Isn't Fester supposed to be a ladies' man like Cousin Itt?
I think Gomez was just making fun of Fester, like brothers do, but because they don't confirm whether or not that was supposed to be a joke, I think he's inaccurately serious. Regardless of how Fester may or may not be a lady killer, he tries to teach Lurch the art of seduction.
Repeat after me. Hey, baby! How'd you like to catch an autopsy with me at the morgue?
Hey, baby, I'm in the morgue.
No. Let's try something simpler. I know. My shackles or yours?
My.
Oh, Lurch, you gotta pay attention. I'm not gonna be there with you when you ask her out. Hiding behind the door, telling you what to say word for word.
Why not?
Because that would be underhanded, deceitful, and likely to backfire in our faces in a very predictable fashion. Let's do it!
No, that should have ended with, "That's so crazy it just might work!"
And Lurch isn't stupid. If he's failing to follow Fester's lead, it should be coming from how physically slow he is. And Fester should be more encouraging than this.
Lurch tries to ask Elsa out on a date with Fester's encouragement, but...
Will
you go out with me on Saturday night?
You're asking me out? Gee. My mother said no one would ever ask me out.
Instead of simply explaining to Elsa that this is all a misunderstanding, all Fester can do is try his best to repulse her out of dating him.
Gomez!
Fester, that suit is ghastly.
I agree. Pink is hideous.
But Carita, I look good in pink.
You make it work. Ish.
In his quest to get Elsa off his back, Fester takes her to a legitimately romantic French restaurant, while Gomez, Morticia, and Lurch watch from nearby.
I was thinking of having the escargot.
Tish, that's French.
Yes, everything is French in this French restaurant. You should have your eyes fixed on the floor in embarrassment. This is like taking your wife to a strip club. Despite his efforts, Fester can't seem to shake Elsa, not even after he tries to improve this poulet de flambe. Can someone explain to me why she's not hissing at the fire like the Bride of Frankenstein would? Why is she done up like this if they aren't going to do anything with it?
Really, this would be very easy to fix if they had just made Elsa normal. She shows up on the Addams' doorstep like she does, looking like a normal maid. Lurch is enamored with her, but doesn't know how to express himself. He tries to ask her out, Fester intervenes, and asks her out for him. But Elsa misunderstands and thinks that Fester just invited her out for a date. It turns out that she's actually got a little crush on Lurch, but she's so nice that she just can't reject Fester. So they go out, and while Fester is trying to sabotage their date for Lurch's sake by being painfully, boringly normal, Elsa's trying to let him down gently and get out of the date because she's as bored as Fester wants her to be. But since the eavesdropping Lurch can only watch them instead of listening to them as well, he misinterprets the date as going swimmingly well. Fester improves the flambe, a little bit of Elsa's hair catches fire, and Lurch leaps to the rescue to put it out despite his own fear of fire. Her hair gets all frazzled so she looks like the Bride of Frankenstein. She thinks she looks hideous, but Lurch grunts in admiration because she's still beautiful to him.
This isn't Lurch's great romance, it's Lurch's frustrating tease.
Can I keep these handcuffs?
Faster! I'll wait for you!
Oh yeah, there's also this subplot where Grandmama is trying to get her witch's license renewed, and she's visited by these witchy officials to take her test.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Elvira. This is Tabitha.
And you couldn't get Cassandra Peterson to play Elvira because...
And I think Tabitha is a reference to Tabitha Stevens from Bewitched, so why isn't she being played by Erin Murphy? I don't even know why we're supposed to be worried about Grandmama not getting her license. She should have this thing in the bag. She is the consummate witch. The examiner should be intimidated by her. Hell, she could be making all kinds of mistakes on her test intentionally just out of spite for having to take the test, and when they try to mark her down, she just says, "Excuse me," and they give her a pass and move on. What's going on here is like if you were trying to give an animation exam to Tim Burton.
Ooh, poopy.
Exactly.
In 30 words or less, summon McAddams, the Earl of Vice.
Hey, that shouldn't be a problem. After all, magic spells can only be one word. Isn't that right, Marnie?
Apart!
How dare you suggest that this is in the same plane of reality as Halloween Town?
Grandmama fails her test, but she just might be able to get her license renewed if she can successfully make a potion that should make Elsa repulsive to Lurch. But because Grandmama is a grotesquely incompetent witch for some reason, the potion backfires, making every man that Elsa meets fall in love with her.
Will you marry me?
She's mine.
Lurch, old man, all you need to do is bonk Fester on the head and drive him into the floor like a railroad spike.
You shouldn't be fighting over this woman. Darling, where have you been all my life?
No, wrong. If this potion is botched to the point where the victim is charming instead of alarming, the absolute worst effect it should have on Gomez is that he acknowledges how charming she is, but that doesn't matter because he's still completely in love with Morticia.
Or maybe this potion makes the victim look like whatever people desire the most. Fester sees dementia from Addams Family Values, Lurch sees Elsa as she is, because of course he would, and the only way Gomez would fall for her is if he mistakes her for Morticia.
Elsa the dateless suddenly can't handle these men fighting over her, and she runs off. Grandmama's little story comes to an end as the other witches offer one last chance to create a potion big enough to make up for her failures.
I tried the best I could, and I
have it right here. Sorry I'm late. This is my grandmother's most secret potion. With this, she can awaken spirits from the beginning of time. Right?
Right. I think this test is over.
Didn't you say you were supposed to throw it over your shoulder?
Of course.
Wait, what? Why are they passing Grandmama when all these spirits are very obviously coming from this little box that Wednesday is holding, and not the potion that she allegedly made? And since when did Wednesday practice witchcraft anyway?
It's nice that Wednesday apparently has this kind of relationship with her grandmother, but this is all wrong. They're reunioning this shit.
Fester and Lurch promise to never let another woman come between them, just in time for the episode's final punchline.
I'm Betsy. I am the neighbor's new nanny. You haven't seen a little boy and a girl around 5 or whatever, have you? I seem to have misplaced them.
Wow. She's cute and irresponsible.
And clearly inspired by the aforementioned dementia. What happened to her again?
Hopefully the rest of the series isn't as bad as this.
Don't worry, I think this is as bad as it gets. The last couple of episodes we looked at aren't as bad as Lurch's grand romance, but they're still not very good either. In Addams Family Feud, another branch of the Addams family, calling themselves the McAddamses, are coming over for a visit, which excites Gomez, Morticia, and Fester, but not Grandmama.
Long-lost relatives are coming to visit!
The McAddamses!
Those low-down, backstabbing, double-crossing scoundrels!
You've met them?
Of course not. The Addamses and McAddamses have been feuding for generations.
What was the feud about?
I don't know. No one ever told me.
What's with this music? It's too loud and distracting, and it's happy and relaxing. As soon as they start talking about the McAddams family, it should be record scratch, silence.
Perhaps they're coming to patch things up.
Never! We're Addamses. They're McAddamses, and never the twain shall meet.
Wait, weren't you excited to meet the McAddamses a few seconds ago?
I don't know. I can't hear them over the music. I'm expecting Snoopy and Woodstock to show up.
Oh, and to think I was going to share my best explosives with them.
Nothing says lovin' like something from the coven.
Does Grandmama cook garbage now? I'm getting okie dokie cooking vibes here.
And that pun would be funny if that something actually came from a coven, i.e. a group of witches instead of just one witch.
Ever the optimists, the Addamses get the place ready to welcome their guests, eager to embrace these new family members and put their differences behind them.
Anybody at home?
Oh dear. I figured the premise was going to be a play on the Hatfields and McCoys, but with a name like McAddams, I thought we were going to see some Scottish branch of the Addams family tree. Anyway, it appears the McAddamses have come to settle things with their rivals once and for all.
If I were the kind of person to say, I told you so, this is probably where I'd say it.
We were just having a little fun with you. Gotcha, didn't we?
Yeah, my life passed before my eyes. You know I should never wear plaid.
No, the actual McAddams should. Wacky hijinks ensue as these estranged families become better acquainted, until Fester and Cousin Pa here do a little toad hunting.
Did I get him? Nope, but you got something else. Why, this here's real gold.
Oh, great. First I miss, then I strike gold. This must be my unlucky day.
1. The Addams house just happened to stand on top of this gold deposit and nobody knew before now. 2. As an Addams, your tastes are probably going to be very different from those around you, but you still understand the value of gold.
Fester! What's going on? Did you bag anything interesting for supper?
3. Gomez Addams does not say supper.
I was out with Cousin Pa, hunting for a toad, when underneath a rock I find this glimmering gold.
You was using my gun, so by all rights, this gold's mine.
Oh, that's very generous of you to offer to help clean up the yard, but we couldn't let you do that. You're our guest.
Contrary-wise, the Addamses are so obscenely rich that they were handing out stacks of money for Halloween treats. Why don't they just let them keep that gold if they want it so badly? It really looks like they need it. Cousin Pa says that the feud is back on, and only after discussing the issue with Morticia does Gomez decide to let them keep the gold. Sadly, Cousin Pa thinks it's a trick, and keeps the feud going for the sake of the plot, I guess. Unsurprisingly, the Addamses are unfazed by everything thrown at them, and Gomez decides the only way to settle this is with a duel to the death.
You dastardly fiend! I don't have a banjo!
Don't worry, darling. I thought it might come to this. I had one sent special deliverance.
Okay, that was good. The duel of the dueling banjos ends in true Addams fashion with a flaming arrow. The feud is officially called off. The McAddamses get to keep the gold nugget, and the icing on the cake is an exploding pie, courtesy of Grandmama.
Addams, you ain't heard the last of us. Mama, I think you may have started a brand new feud.
It's tradition.
If you can't have a senseless, bitter feud with family, who can you have it with?
Considering how the Addamses are supposed to be the ideal family despite their weirdness, the answer to that question is anyone else.
And considering the entire point of the Addams Family is that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, they couldn't have given us one redeemable thing about these McAddamses. They just threw a whole bunch of horrible Southern stereotypes at us.
Let's wrap things up by talking about the final episode of the series, Death Visits the Addams Family. We open on the family celebrating Bastille Day, and everyone's Frenching it up.
Gomez, that's French.
And just like with Tim Curry, it's weird hearing Gomez speaking in French. Makes me think things are gonna get inappropriate. Suddenly, they receive a visit from an unexpected guest.
Hello, I'm Gomez Addams. This is my lovely wife Morticia, my fascinating brother Fester, and my bewitching mother Eudora.
Welcome to our home. I don't believe we've had the pleasure of meeting.
Really? I thought that Death would be rooming with you guys. It would appear that Death has come for Gomez, and it's never explained why. The Addamses have always been made of sterner stuff. Gomez isn't afflicted with any kind of disease, he isn't involved in some horrible accident. Death is just here now, time to go. Or, rather, it would be time to go if Gomez didn't keep obliviously ducking Death at every turn. He dodges a pitchfork accidentally thrown by Uncle Fester, he survives falling out a window, he even makes it out of Wednesday's guillotine.
Okay, Pugsley. Now it's your turn.
And Pugsley is afraid of a little innocent playtime? No.
No.
That was a close call, Kidita. I almost met the Grim Reaper that time.
Why do you think you haven't met him now? Death drops the theatrics and tells Gomez to his face that it's time for him to go, but he'll give him a few moments to say goodbye to his family.
I'm so glad we had so many unpleasant times together. I'll miss you so.
Look on the bright side. With any luck, I'll be back to haunt you in no time.
Promise.
Cross my heart and hope to. Well, you know.
Oh.
Gomez, you better hurry if you want to say goodbye to the rest of your family.
Well, I know, but...
Oh, don't worry. I'll see Morticia is adequately consoled.
Wow. Death is creepy.
And ambitious.
Wednesday thinks that the answer to their problem can be found in The Complete Moron's Guide to Death, which Pugsley found at the very top shelf.
Thank you, Pugsley.
You're welcome.
You fell off a chair. Your sister's been trying to kill you since you were a baby.
Really? The way that those two have been going at it their entire lives, you'd think the Addamses would have hired Death as a babysitter. Morticia, meanwhile, has been distracting Death with an innocent game of hangman.
You lose again. I'm beginning to think you like seeing the little man swing.
Has anyone ever told you your eyes are like vacuous pools of obsidian?
Only one man has ever given me that kind of compliment. My beloved Gomez. I don't want to bore you. I'm sure you remember all the details of everyone's life, but when I was a girl, I was overlooked to the point where I feared I would never know love. Then one unforgettable day, I met him. The man who would steal my heart. The man who would give me a beautiful family. The man who would be my reason to get up in the evening. My one, my only, my Gomez. And woe be unto anyone who dare try to take him from me. But by all means, go on about my eyes.
Before Death can take Gomez away, Wednesday reveals that Gomez can challenge Death for his life. After a handful of silly games, when you'd think Death's challenge would be chess or a fiddle contest or something, Death is defeated, and the Addamses are free to continue their Bastille Day celebration.
Where are the children?
We're right here.
Wednesday, Pugsley, what have you got there?
We carved a tombstone for Father, just in case he didn't win.
Children? That was very thoughtful of you.
6 feet under, you will find Gomez Addams one of a kind.
But I'm an Addams, and it'll take more than death to get rid of one of us.
Something both you and Death should have been aware of since the beginning. What was the point of this episode?
And as you pointed out, this was the last episode of the series. It wasn't death that killed the Addams family. It was cancellation.
So that was the new Addams Family.
And aside from those last few episodes, it was really good.
Despite calling itself the new Addams Family, it's a very deliberate throwback to the original show. Some older properties feel the need to update themselves in order to appeal to the audiences of today, and that can run the risk of turning into something it shouldn't be. But really, the only update that this show did was being filmed in color. While there are a handful of episodes that don't quite hit the mark, the writing is classically funny with only a few modern references sprinkled throughout to add to the satire, when it could have been disastrously trendy like the sunglasses in the opening would suggest. The actors are all great and perfectly cast, and it succeeded in presenting these characters as the archetypical sitcom family they're supposed to be. Admittedly, it's a little disappointing that it doesn't have stronger ties with the Sonnenfeld films, when the entire existence of Addams Family Reunion was about linking the show to the movies, but it's funny enough that can be easily forgiven, and enjoyed purely on its own merits. All that this series wants to do is show new audiences what made the original property work so well. Basically, it's like the original TV show and the Sonnenfeld films had a baby.
It's an Addams.
It just happens to take more after the former than the latter.
I was not expecting to like this, but we've got to see the rest of the series when we have time.
And you can say that. We all love Raul Julia's Gomez, but it is okay to enjoy other Gomez's as well.
I still feel like I'm betraying him.
Enjoying this new version is not a betrayal, Karita. I just hope I can say the same thing about next week's Halloween treat. See you later.
Au revoir.
According to my records, you have another sibling.
Yes, there were 3 of us, but Pugsley ate the little one.
Well, thanks for answering the question of what happened to Pubert.
Natural selection.
Subscribe, like, follow, comment, share, watch more.